Doom Patrol Season 1. This is on the DC Universe streaming service. It's the second show on here after Titans. It's technically a spin-off of Titans, but the storylines doesn't seem to quite match up. I don't know where the Titans episode would take place and what we've seen established in Doom Patrol so far. And there's a lot of recasting. Like Chief was recast, and I believe Robot Man and Negative Man were recast. So it's barely a spin-off in that respect so far. This will be a spoiler review. There's a lot of stuff I didn't want to mention in my non-spoiler review, which I have up now on my blog, soundingbetterinmyhead.com. So if you want to read that, go for it. But long story short, solid show. I end up going with a 4 out of 5. Thought about going even up to a 4.5, but I think it's kind of nitpicking, but I think it took down the show a couple notches. That I think there's a lot of stuff that they just really didn't explain as well as I would have liked. And it wasn't a case of trying to keep secrets till season 2. I think this is stuff that could have been taken care of now, and they just didn't. Like, for example, Rita getting her power. She falls in the water and inhales this weird thing, and it's never really mentioned what it was or how it was there, or evidently if Niles was behind this thing, how he did it. A few other odds and ends that just weren't really explained, and a lot of stuff with Niles that didn't make sense. I mean, he was a younger man in the 1920s or so, even before that, and now in modern time, it looks like he hasn't aged, and yet he still seemed to be looking for something to keep him from aging. Never was even brought up by any of the other characters, like, this guy's not aging. And it seemed like pretty much every hero, despite not that really anything necessarily being in their power set, didn't age. But the big thing about the show is it's got a crazy, crazy sense of humor. It's up there. I'd say it's like kind of off the wall, like a Legends of Tomorrow, but also it's got the Deadpool fourth wall breaking with Mr. Nobody, who, I mean, he's literally the narrator. He's telling you that this is a TV show on the DC Universe. At one point, he's got a little iPad out, and he actually rewinds to a previous episode. So it's like Deadpool and then some. It's like almost a little bit like a couple sequences out of the Spaceballs movie when they were watching the tapes of what happened and what was about to happen. But it works. They kind of toned it down a touch, like the wackiness after a few episodes, but it's always still kind of there, and it picks up again near the end. But that gives a chance for the characters to grow, and this is where the show's other strong point is. The character work is so good. Like, these characters all take a journey. They're all damaged, in various stages, like mentally and physically. And you see them trying to dig themselves out of it. They start coming together, and shit goes wrong. They fall apart again. But by the end, when they all take that step to be better people, it really works. Robot Man is interesting because he kind of comes in like the audience point of view, because you're seeing him as he's come to grips with being in his robot body and seeing his flashbacks. He's also like pretty heavy on the comedy relief, but he kind of starts getting pushed in the background a little bit. He's not so much our point of view anymore. And first stretch, a lot of times it's just him making mistakes and yelling "fuck" like a lot, like "oh fuck, 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 this is fucked up, fuck." Larry, good backstory, but he's just so reserved. You don't really quite understand what his arc is for a while, and you have no real idea what this connection is between this negative being that's inside of him. You finally have the episode where he reaches this point where he finally gets past his ex-lover, and he's ready to move on, and he finally hits a point where he's happy with who he is. So it's a pretty good arc. Even going back to Robot Man, when he finally learns to let his daughter go, it's a pretty strong moment. Jane's story, her arc's not as good, but her character's so much more interesting because of all the different personalities she has. Like I said, the acting's solid. Definitely a lot of the characters do not feel like it's her anymore. I feel like she's definitely becoming a different person, but nowhere near as like expertly done as like a James McAvoy doing like his split character. And this interest, I liked that there was an effect, like there was like a little shimmer as she would change from one personality to another, kind of helped, like a quick visual cue that she's becoming somewhere else. You didn't always see. They always supposedly had superpowers. You didn't always see some of these characters having any kind of special powers, but as they went on, it got a little bit better, and you get to see a little bit more and more what she can do. I really dug it. The imagery of, you kind of figure out early on she had daddy issues. At one point, I was actually kind of thinking maybe she would turn out to be Robot Man's daughter, but instead they went with the more predictable, sexually abused daughter, that has split personalities because her dad was abusing her. But they had an awesome visual of him being like this monster made out of puzzle pieces, which I thought looked really cool. In my opinion, the best storyline of all the main characters was Rita's. She was just kind of stuck still in the kind of the golden age of movies actress that could barely control her form. And she just eventually got to this point where she's like, you know what, I'm going to be a better person. And she basically becomes the compass of the team. And I was really happy with the way her story went. Initially, Cyborg was supposed to be the compass of the team. He's the established superhero. His story's okay. It's not really super drastically different than other Cyborg stories we got. He's a more familiar character out of the entire group. The villain was just fantastic. Mr. Nobody, just like I said, he's narrating the story, he's flash forwarding, doing all this crazy stuff, and yet he's still scary when he needs to be. He's still like just someone you don't want to mess with, and they do a really good job. He does a really good job of playing with all these different aspects of this character, and even when he's kind of a sad sack, it works. The plot itself is not that crazy. It's Niles is missing, and they got to find him, and there's just so many detours along the way, and a lot of it's just character building, which is awesome because that's probably the best part of the show. But you just got weird shit like the unread book, which you got the Uncreator, the giant eye in the sky that's like wiping out. It's basically Armageddon. You got Flex Mentallo, this guy that flexes his muscles and like he could change reality. It's just the most bizarre character I think I really have seen. You have the original Doom Patrol and their tragic tale. You have Danny the Street, which is like this street with that's alive and full of like just people that weren't comfortable in their lives and they found somewhere that they're welcome. It's so weird, but it works for the story. And the strangest thing is a lot of the stuff is from the books. Danny the Street's really from the book. Animal, Mineral, Vegetable Man was from the books, and they made him a little bit even goofier than he originally supposed to be, but he's still there. They have what initially I thought was a ripoff of Constantine with this magician character, but it actually in the books they wanted to use Constantine and they couldn't, so they basically made a ripoff. And it just like I said, it's amazing how much stuff was actually in the books and made it to the show. I mean, some of it was tweaked. I don't think I got a ton else to say. Otherwise, I will do my notes real quick, see if there's anything worth mentioning. Actually, right off the bat, it's definitely an R-rated show. The first episode, you got boobs flopping around. You got a ton of cuss words. It definitely gets bloody at points. Really wasn't impressed with the overall look of Cyborg. It just looked like prosthetics. So they just put some metal things on his head and some stuff on his arms and gave him like this vest. So it really didn't feel as much like it was, he was becoming a cyborg. It was this guy with stuff on it. I got used to it as the show went on, and it kind of didn't stand out as bad to me, but I just didn't think the makeup was that great. And a lot of times it's just him wearing a tracksuit, so all you see is like this thing glued to the side of his head, and just bizarre stuff. You got a donkey that farts out messages, and then they have to go in the donkey's mouth to, try to find Niles. I thought the CGI there was bad, especially with Rita, the Rita effects and all that just didn't look good. From my understanding, for Rita in the book, she's more or less like a Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four as far as the way her powers look. Here, she's generally just like a blob, which she's kind of useless, in battle, which they didn't have a lot of battles, but she really can't do a lot the way they have her set up. And it's weird, one episode, she does become a giant blob. She seemed like she was way bigger than she should have been. Like, I don't know why she would have gained that much more mass. Occasionally has some creative uses for her power, but usually it was about her squeezing into something instead of stretching and doing something cool. Corny stuff. The whole entire puppet show with the Nazi showing how like he makes his supervillains was just so out there but fun to watch. Scenes like that and a few other scenes also were slightly reminiscent of some of the stuff you would see in the Legion TV show, just where it's just so out there. It's almost something they would do. But still, I think it worked for this show. Another thing they seem like they dropped, there's a point where Jane goes into a church and flips out on the priest and almost kills him. And we never found out why she has this thing about like the church. And it seems like anything we've seen didn't really match with her story at this point. Still so weird that they were able to somehow create their own cult, which was also somehow able to make their own god that was able to stop the Uncreator. Just said it kind of works for the show, but it's like it makes just so little sense. It was just funny that the plan was to make just the same thing, another guy with words written on him, but since there's a bunch of mental patients, it ended up being a dog, and you had to hit some bell, and then you can unlock, the secrets. Of course, just the silliness with Admiral Whiskers, and just him trying to be talked into revenge, and he doesn't want to do it because he's a woodland creature, and then eventually somehow chews on the right wires, and Robot Man makes him act like an idiot. But it works. Again, this stuff's so bizarre, but it works for the show. I actually thought the little musical number inside on Danny Street was really well done. It was just kind of sad to see that it was all just in Larry's mind the whole time. It was kind of such a nice, kind of beautiful coming out moment, and then it turns out it never really happened. And then the whole end that was anticlimactic. You had the whole army show up, and then somehow Danny made him disappear, and then it was just the one guy kicking the shit out of the other guy, and that was it. Definitely like seeing inside Jane's mind, seeing the underground. Somewhat disappointing that she didn't play the alternates of herself. Like most of them are played by other actresses. Then the strange placement of the Niles flashback of the whole thing where women basically fall in love with a cave woman. I don't even know if that's where this daughter of his comes from later in the show, or it's something unrelated. And this cave woman had like this super long lifespan, and I don't know. It was a really odd place thing. It was an interesting story, but it's just weird how it came into the narrative. The big episode for Robot Man is him finally banging his daughter. Just great speech by her why she felt, her adopted dad was her real dad, and it was a nice, sweet moment for him getting the watch back for her and just leaving it and disappearing. It was pretty fucked up the way Mr. Nobody tricked Cyborg and almost beating his dad to death. Just kind of gets back to how dangerous his character is. I said the whole Flex thing was bizarre. They took no effort to explain how he got his powers. And I don't know, he knew Danny in the street somehow. He could somehow hear Cyborg's computer in his head. He was able to hear what the negative being was saying. Never explains that really. And he just kind of does disappear after a certain point. It's his big mass orgasm sequence, which was hilarious. Just more bizarre things. The Beard Hunter, which apparently is also a real character, just really creepy, yet somehow still dangerous enough to defeat Cyborg. And so you see the supervillain wins, all the heroes hate each other, and then he's actually kind of bored, and then suddenly he teams up with the talking cockroach and the Admiral Whiskers, who then turn the table on him, and now he's at their mercy. And instead of getting a cool battle scene, we just get just this wacky plan of everybody going inside the roach and letting Larry blow up the town. It's classic Doom Patrol for what the show is trying to do. That's about all I gotta say. I don't want to go through every detail of the show. I think you should actually watch it for yourself. It's definitely worth it. They have not confirmed or denied a second season at this point. I think there probably will be. I think there will be enough good reviews for it, and I think they're going to want to keep filling up their time slots to keep people subscribing. So that's all I got. So thanks for watching.